You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Let me start then with a reaction to LSU and what you saw last night.
My biggest question mark, as we talked about last week, was going to be the organization of everything. And just, just how they could sort of operate and organize, essentially how many people would be on the same page, and then how complicated would they be able to be if they were able to do that. I thought offensively the plan was a little bit simple, be it formations, motions, personnel groupings, mixing different things up. You can't go 20 minutes, whatever it was, of actual game time before Kayshawn gets a target. Like that can't be a real thing. I thought the running game was kind of abandoned a little bit because you're going to hear and everybody's going to say, well, they just couldn't run the ball. But I mean, I'm sitting here watching the film now, and like there's a couple times in the first half where they bust off some decent runs, and it's on a nice combo block, usually over on the on the right side. Right guard, right tackle, or center right guard, and they create a nice little seam, and they're able to get a couple yards. So the run game is something that you got to stick with and have to overly commit to. And this isn't really an LSU thing; this is just a college football thing. There are very few guys that'll just say, you know what, we are going to run the football, and if it takes us 4 or 5 series to figure out how to get it going, we're going to stick with it and we're going to go. LSU's rushing attack for the most part was Jaden Daniels, and that was leaving the pocket. That wasn't necessarily by design. So, I mean, obviously he's their leading rusher, over 100 yards, but I felt like it could have been a little bit more complex than it was. But if your concern is just getting guys lined up, getting on the field in the right place, having the right personnel groupings, understanding your assignments, then you back that down just a little bit. So defensively, I thought guys were flying around early. Losing Mason was just gut-wrenching. I hated seeing it. Because he's really one of the kids in the SEC that I was looking forward to watching play this year. Yeah. And then, man, it looked like BJ was going to be down right after him. Thankfully, he's back in the game. But I think that kind of slowed some things down when Ali gets ejected. That was just a thoughtless play, really. You got to know better than that. But I'm not one that's going to sit here and just bang on them and say it was miserable and everything was bad. Yes, you were gifted a fumble, but you still went 99 yards and gave yourself an opportunity to be in that game. And Florida State had multiple chances to hammer that thing down and be done with it and essentially just force LSU to go away. And they couldn't do it. So there was some good, and they were in that game. They had their chances, and some of those things, I mean, obviously special teams was just a nightmare. Yeah. You get a couple kicks blocked, you drop a couple punts, those are things that, again, when we talk about operation organization, those are things that shouldn't be an issue, and they were. It's still week one. It's still a new staff. It's still a new group of guys together. It's still some young players that made some mistakes that they won't make much more. So I'm interested to see if they can just kind of take some of the good and build upon it moving forward.
Nicole, you're as good as there is, as I've talked to you about analyzing the offensive line. That's just a gigantic question mark today that people have, and honestly we've had for some time. How much more can they improve?
Well, listen, they can get better because there were some real deficiencies last night. I mean, you had some bad pass sets. Guys were just flat getting beat. You had some guys get pushed around. There were a couple of missed assignments, and the missed assignments can definitely get better, and that has to get better. You can't win football games by turning guys loose. It can't happen. It won't happen. I thought people were kind of riding me because I thought A&M's O-line played pretty decent, but then when you go back and look at it, they turned a couple of guys loose as well. And those things just can't continue, or you're just not giving yourself a chance. LSU's got the skill guys. If they just give themselves a chance, they're going to be able to create yards. But I think they can make strides. Keep in mind, this is a freshman. This is a first-time center. And this is a group that has not played a lot of football together. And you say, well, they've been all fall camp or spring, whatever. It doesn't really count that much. All right. You got to, because people don't know how the guy next to you is going to react to things until live bullets are flying. Trust me. I had guys in practice that would make every call. They would know every defense. They would know every check. And they'd be, they would like regurgitate everything I said. Yeah, 3 techniques. This guy 55, Mike. Yeah, let's go. We get in the game, silence. Nothing. Never say a word. Don't pass down calls to the tackles and tight ends. Don't say anything to help understand that you got the call that everybody else got. Like, just nothing. Just mute in games. So you learn that, though, and then the next time out you have an understanding that, all right, I have to be the one to get this call down to the tackle. So you learn a lot about the guys next to you, how they play, how they operate, what they need, what they don't need. Center's going to learn, obviously, if there's a certain guard he needs to work with more often in pass pro. Does he need to stay engaged in a combo block in the run game with one guy more so than the other? Obviously, let's just start with this. The snaps have got to get better.
Yeah.
That stuff can't keep going on. And I saw it in a couple of places. A&M was one of them. They had a couple of bad snaps. Like, you can't. You're not going to win games with bad snaps. Like, and I understand first times. Like, here's the weirdest part about last night. I saw multiple people tweeting that were saying, "Oh God, LSU starting a first-time center." Like, how can people think that never happens? Like, I'm sitting there looking at it, like, and people are like surprised, like, "Oh, they got a first-time center in there." Like, who's got a 20-year center? Like, I don't understand. Like, what? I could not believe that people were surprised by that. Like, you guys realize at best every 5 years that happens. Like, at absolute max best, every 5 years somebody has a first-time center. I don't know what football you guys have been watching, but that's the way this thing goes. So that stuff can be cleaned up. And part of that too, Matt, you get in the game and that adrenaline gets going and you got to go left or you got to go right or you got to pass that and you got to get depth. All of a sudden that arm angle changes a little bit. Your grip on the ball changes a little bit. And that's why you see it go flying left, right, or high. And it's just not as comfortable, especially early in the season, as it is in practice. Because practice is secondhand. Practice is just, that's just everyday stuff. You're used to doing that. You know the guy in front of you. You probably know if he's going to make an inside move, outside move. Is he going to bull rush? Does he have a swim move? Whatever that is. This is totally different. So that part can be cleaned up. I do think they can get better. They have a hell of an offensive line coach, Brad Davis. But, some of the stuff I saw cannot continue, or LSU is going to make it very difficult on themselves to move the football.
He's on Twitter at Cole Cubelic. He's with us every Monday, courtesy of Roosters Men's Grooming. And yes, we do get the coincidence of he and I both being bald men, but you can still go get the hot towel treatment, the straight edge shave. It's a great place to go get the MVP there. Hey, biggest takeaway from the entire league this weekend?
Quarterback play, probably better than we thought, because I think KJ Jefferson looks better. We all knew that Anthony Richardson was kind of this lottery ticket, but we knew that the ceiling was incredible, and that if it hit, it would really be like a magnificent windfall. And it kind of looked like it hit Saturday night.
Yeah.
We knew the capabilities were there. We just didn't know if we were going to be able to cash that ticket. And Billy Napier cashed it Saturday night. Obviously, he has a lot of room to improve still. He's not going to be able to get away with some of the things he did every week. But goodness gracious, if he's 70, 80% of that every week, they're going to have a chance to win a lot of games. Mike Wright at Vandy. Come on now. Vandy's 2-0. I understand the level of competition, but the dude had 11 carries. 4 of them were for touchdowns. And, he throws a couple too. So I'm going to give him some credit. Obviously, we had Hendon Hooker and Bryce Young. Our 2 games this weekend, both of those guys looked outstanding. I think Auburn is in a decent situation with TJ Finley and Robbie Ashford, a little bit of a two-headed monster with what they're going to be able to do. Stetson Bennett looked a little bit better than he did last year.
Yeah.
The ball distribution and the understanding of operating that offense, and, he didn't push it down the field a ton, but, man, he just looked crisp running that offense. So I think probably my big takeaway was the quarterback play. Rattler was okay. He still got a boatload of talent. I didn't think he was great. It didn't appear as though, he had magically just gotten this much better, but I think he's going to be fine. And I think you look at the league top to bottom. Levis threw for 300. So I think quarterback play is probably where I would go on that.
A couple of conference games this weekend, too. We'll start to figure out a lot with Kentucky going to Florida. Obviously, Arkansas and South Carolina, as you mentioned, with Spencer Rattler. It's going to be a good weekend coming up. Before you go, most disappointing thing that maybe you had an expectation that came up short of it this weekend?
I didn't have the expectation of the league going undefeated, but once we got to where we got Saturday night, I was pretty disappointed to not kind of finish that thing off last night. I mean, how cool would it have been to have said every team won, week 1/0, and you're 15-0. Like, that would have been pretty cool. But as far as just maybe a position group or a unit, I don't think. I mean, most of it was kind of as expected. I don't think that there was one thing that I saw that, like the A&M offense in general. I kind of expected that thing to be like, I thought the O-line would dominate. They didn't. Now, that Sam Houston front moved around a lot, and some of it was on the tight ends, and some of it was backs just not seeing things. But they got some good skill, and Haynes King kind of really wasn't what I thought he was going to be. So that was maybe a micro letdown, just because the expectations and the chatter the entire offseason have somewhat been out of control.
He's Cole Cubelic, looking ahead to week 2. Where are you going to be?
Right around the corner from you.
Are you coming in?
I'm coming in.
Heck
we'll
yeah,
be there,
man.
I'll be there late Thursday night, and excited to see how they get that thing, kind of back on track, get some different things going. Obviously, I don't know much about South Florida Baptist, but Southern put 84 on them.
86.
86. I think the total yardage was like 611 to 93.
I think it was something called Florida Memorial is who they beat.
There you go. Sorry, Florida
86.
Memorial. They just brought football back in 2020. I was like, well, that was a bad year to try to start playing football again.
Put some respect on their
right
name.
in the middle of COVID. Let's get football going again, guys.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. Sure enough, that SEC Network crew is going to be in town. We'll look forward to having you, man. We'll see you in town in a couple days, man. Thanks for the time as always.
Yeah, we'll get together. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.